This is all about the words we are afraid to say, whether we are the person with aphasia or we are the care partner, the spouse, the significant other, the partner of the person with aphasia. And you probably noticed in your life before aphasia that it was hard to say some of the things that were on your mind, some of the things that were on your heart. But adding aphasia on top of that makes that so much more difficult. The words we need to say, but maybe we don't. And why is it we don't say some of the things that are on our heart? Is it because you're afraid of the reaction of the other person? Are you afraid of how it's going to come across, be received? Do you think someone's going to think bad of you or poorly of you if you say these things? What about being honest, right? Sometimes we sugarcoat because we are afraid of what the other person's going to say back to us, or if it's going to damage a relationship, whatever that is. So, what we do know with aphasia is caregiving and aphasia change everything. If we don't say the things that matter, then the other person never gets a chance to understand. So, tonight we're going to say them. I've compiled a short list of things that care partners and persons with aphasia have told me over the last few years, because what we know is we've got to bridge the gap. We've got to find a way to communicate. When your loved one, let's say you're the spouse, your loved one comes home from the hospital and they aren't communicating, something's different. They can't find their words, or maybe they are nonverbal altogether. How do you find a way to get even the basics talked about? How do you find a way to talk about feelings? Well, I'll tell you what happens. Those feelings get pushed down, they get pushed to the side because there's other things that are far more important, like getting your teeth brushed, getting dressed, getting a shower, getting some food, these kinds of things. These normal caregiver roles, the day to day tasks take precedence. But over time, there can be a resentment that builds up on the part of both individuals. The care partner who doesn't feel like they are being seen and heard, and the person with aphasia who may be feeling like they're not being understood. You can't possibly know what is in my heart, what I'm feeling, what I'm going through after having had a stroke, when I can't find the words that I want to say. So, what happens when important words are left out? So, the person with aphasia, I care what you say, but I can't always understand or respond quickly. Does this ring true for any of you who have aphasia? This is one of those things that is said to me quite often. Sometimes the person with aphasia would want to say, if they could get the words out, I avoid socializing because I don't want people to think I'm dumb when I can't find my words. Or I don't want them to think that there's something wrong with me, something other than a stroke or aphasia. Because what we know is most people don't know the word aphasia. The person with aphasia also would say, I want to be seen for who I am, not someone less than I am, just because I communicate differently. Many of the survivors that I work with have to use a variety of methods to communicate. Sometimes it's not all words. Sometimes it's the facial expression, it's the nodding the head, shaking the head no, using gestures like a thumb up, or making a choice, whether it's choice number one or choice number two. So sometimes we have to, as the listener of the person who has aphasia, figure out what it is they're meaning. And sometimes we need to slow down enough to read between the lines. We need to read between the lines and figure out what are they saying that maybe they can't say. So another thing that the person with aphasia would want to say, and maybe they can't, is my words are there, but it feels like they're moving through jello. Have any of you experienced that? I know I've experienced that and I don't have aphasia, whether it's a long day or I'm feeling sick and I just can't get my words out. It's just so much more effort than you would expect it to be. And that can be what it feels like with the for the person who has aphasia. And then you have to understand, looking at the person with aphasia, that they've gone through this huge identity change. And they may not be thinking of it in quite those terms, but they may be feeling like they're wearing a costume, that they are wearing, somebody else's face, somebody else's body. It doesn't feel like them. And they need you to understand that they don't know who they are right now. But because of their aphasia, they may not be able to communicate this. They may not be able to even process on a deeper level those emotions, the feelings that go along with having had this stroke, the aphasia. I need you to know I still feel everything. Isn't that the truth? Just because you have aphasia doesn't mean you aren't feeling, but you're not processing. Care partners, let's turn this over to you. Do you ever feel like, here, I'm going to take these down for a minute. Care partners, do you feel like your person with aphasia has no idea what you're going through? They're feeling like, the world is revolving around them because they had this accident. And again, maybe they just don't process it quite at that level, but they probably have a feeling or an angst or a worry, an anxiousness, whatever the case may be. And this might manifest in a lot of different ways. Some of those manifestations can be, biting at you, sniping at you, saying mean things. It could be, they push you away or they give you mean, ugly looks. So, as a care partner, you could be feeling like you are entirely alone, that you don't know what's up and what's down because you also have new roles and responsibilities, right? Aphasia can isolate both of you, it changes how you connect. But the answer should not be silence. We have to find a way to bridge that gap. So here are some key realizations for the person with aphasia. I don't ignore you. Think of this as coming from your person with aphasia. I'm not ignoring you. I just can't always respond fast enough. Or for the spouse, the care partner might say, I don't mean to take over. I just don't know how to include you when you can't always express what you want. Right? There's a lot of guessing. Remember, I said earlier, reading between the lines, there's a lot of guessing what they need. And they may not be able to read between the lines like you can because of their aphasia. The person with aphasia might say, I get frustrated too, not just because I can't talk, but because people treat me like I don't understand. So let me tell you a little story about my friend Anne. Anne went in for surgery and she went to speak to the nurse that was overseeing her care is right before she was literally going to go into surgery, to get that little happy shot you get before the anesthesia. And she asked the nurse, do you know what aphasia is? And of course, the nurse said, well, of course I know what aphasia is. I'm a medical professional. Well, Anne's point was, I can talk right now, but with anesthesia and with pain medicine, all of this, I am not going to get my words out because Anne had already been through this before. She knew what was likely going to happen, and she wanted to communicate to the nurse so that the nurse could share with the team that she is going to come out of surgery and she's going to sound very different than how she went into surgery. And her concern was is that they're going to think maybe she had a stroke and rush her to an MRI or a CAT scan or some other thing. So Anne wanted to make sure that she set the stage for what could be happening based on her experience with aphasia. Well, eventually she and the nurse were able to communicate to one another, and Anne felt a lot more confidence going into the surgery. And later, it was later in recovery that the nurse came back to Anne and said, "I get what you mean now. Thank you for explaining it to me." So that's just one example of words that are not said. It started out as a conversation that was a little, testy, right? But Anne persisted because it was important to her. So I give this example because I want you, the spouse and the person with aphasia, you have to start talking to each other. But when do you do that, right? When when my kids were little, I found when we needed to have some of the tougher conversations, we were far more successful doing it when they were relaxed. So you got to make sure you do it quick. But the same thing can happen with aphasia, right? You could get ready for bed with your partner, you could get into bed, and you can try and start those conversations. Find a way to start sharing those feelings. You have to start telling your person, "You hurt my feelings when you snapped at me today. I know you're hurting. I know this is all confusing with the aphasia, but you gotta start these conversations." So timing is everything, just like I gave the example of right at bedtime. Find a moment when the house is calm, quiet, free from distractions. Find the time, find your words, because this is the first step. For you, the care partners, I see you. I see your journey. And sometimes it probably feels really overwhelming, like you're drowning and you are just keeping your nose above water. I have a free resource for you: 5 days to a more balanced caregiving life. This is a free 5-day email course. And what that means is every day for 5 days, you'll get an email that has one action step in it. It's a small step to start this journey of being more in control. Because what my care partners are telling me is that this road, this journey of being a caregiver is really tough. And it's sometimes hard to see the forest through the trees. And for you stroke survivors, if you've ever felt like your recovery has a time limit, it doesn't. We have the beauty, the amazingness of neuroplasticity. And to that end, I made you a free guide. It's called The 3 Key Reasons Aphasia Recovery Never Stops. I just submitted to Amazon the manuscript for my third book, and this is aimed just right at care partners to help you continue from that email course to the next steps, which is gaining even more control over your caregiving process, to go from being a caregiver or a caretaker to becoming a care partner. Our book is going to be, well, by the time this airs on the podcast in a couple of weeks, the book will be out on Amazon. I will share with you that we may not always have the right words, but that doesn't mean we stop trying to understand each other. It's a process. Aphasia doesn't change the love between you, but it does mean you have to fight for new ways to connect. And it's not a natural, it's not like, if you think back, if you're married to your partner with aphasia, it's not like back when you were dating and getting to know each other. Most of the time that's somewhat of a natural process. Of course, bumps along the road, But the idea is now with aphasia, you have to have tools, strategies. You have to be very purposeful and mindful about how you connect. It's so, so very important to find these moments. If this conversation spoke to you, if it sparked something within you, if it made you think, yeah, I could do something different, would you let me know? Whether it's in the comments now, you can send me a DM here on Facebook. You can reach out through the website. My main website is dolifespeechpathology.com. Please tell me your thoughts, your feedback, your ideas, and how I can support you. That's why I'm here. If there's a way I can support you, please let me know. Wishing you each a fabulous, fabulous week.